Happens for sure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to connect with you.
Where are you located?
In Melbourne Beach, Florida?
Oh, okay. Man, I've been having so many interviews in Florida lately, and when you talk to somebody that's landlocked in Kansas City like I am, I just think about the beach, and I'm like, man, I just wish I could see that all the time.
It is really beautiful.
Yeah. So before we get into your life, I want to know the one thing that we've all been dealing with for the last 3 years now that the world's kind of waking up has been COVID. And I'm curious how you survived that time period and how it's affected the way that you conduct business now.
That's a great question. I didn't see it as a survival mode. I actually was working in my career job at Social Security Administration, and we got to work from home, which was fabulous.
Hmm.
My commute was wonderful. It was just across the hall.
Yeah.
And it was a bit challenging to navigate, more tech stuff as
Yeah.
far as, getting applications processed and connecting with people. But we did a lot of phone work to begin with. So it kind of leveled itself out. In August of 20, I started my online career for coaching and switched then. And it was great to connect via Zoom with everyone around the world and to have the capability. So I really didn't see any disadvantages. I almost enjoyed staying home and not having to drive somewhere and deal with a lot of crowds and things like that. So,
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the silver linings. I know just even with like medical appointments that you don't have to like load up and drive to and come back with the kids. It's just so much easier. But I think there's a lot of things that we can do remotely, but there's a lot of things, ironically, over this time that we crave that involved in person and community. So it was a weird time because I think it did make us all more autonomous, but we realized we depend on each other so much more than we think we do.
yes. Yeah. And traveling, being isolated, being told that you can't leave your home and you can't have Thanksgiving and celebrate with your family, that was a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
And, we have a very small family anyways, and we got together. So, and there was the family was split as far as, well, I can't come because there's too many people there, and we didn't isolate, we didn't do this, and it's like, we'll be fine.
right.
So, and then all the mixed messages about what you could do and how it was going to affect you, and it was just it was a very confusing time as
Of
far as
course.
that goes.
Yeah. I mean, for adults, it's a little different. You can kind of navigate it because we've been around longer, but for the kids, it's confusing. We live in a country that has done nothing but tell us freedom, freedom. And then we hit this period where it's like you can't even handshake. You can't even you just know. So it's weird. It's psychologically, it was such a weird, weird time.
Yeah.
So so you have had this talent and ability with numbers, obviously, your whole life. So, to get to the crux of exactly what you do now, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. Okay. One of the kids looks up and asks you, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that child right now?
I make money fun.
They would love that.
Yes. Yes. I would tell them that money is a great tool in which you can use to help others. And when you manage it, when you take care of it, you take good care of it, it will always be there for you.
So, how do you explain to me exactly what you do? I know you have an online existence. You talked about Social Security. And so, what exactly is it that you do?
Yeah, so I'm a wealth activator. So I help ladies manage their money. I focus on women entrepreneurs, Facebook group leaders, podcast hosts who really want to be a self-made millionaire. They want to pay down debt and they want to build wealth, a generational wealth, so that they can leave a legacy for their families without a restrictive budget. So budgeting to me is a bad word because it's very restrictive. It's like you mentioned freedom. A budget does not create freedom in our finances. So by implementing my money multiplier system, which is a 10-10-10 plan and a plan that involves money management, mindset, and investing. And it's not investing like in the stocks. I am not a financial advisor or, planner. I am a independent insurance broker, so I am licensed in 13 states. So I do, sell insurance policies for life, health, dental, and things like that. And a lot of ladies don't understand that you can invest just in a money market savings account and earn great interest and watch your money multiply versus keeping it in the bank account that you've had, locally, that's only earning, 0.05% interest. So teaching them those strategies, creating a wealth activation roadmap so that every time they get income, they don't feel like they're living check to check. They're actually allocating 10% for investment. So investing in themselves into a savings account, building up an emergency fund of 7 months. They're investing in others. They're giving to their favorite charities, their church, and they're opening up that reciprocal energy of giving and receiving, and they're enjoying their money. So taking 10% and just having fun,
Yeah.
going out and doing what you love, experiencing things without thinking, oh, I overspent. There's too much money. I don't have enough to work with. So many entrepreneurs will take all of their income and pour it right back into their business. And they feel like they have nothing. And they're always selling and working and pouring into that business and not enjoying anything. So by implementing this system, they get to do both and build simultaneously while they're thinking about their money story, their thoughts. So I incorporate the power of breath and scent with thoughts and feelings so that we can get different results. We can look at our money stories from childhood, the conditioning statements that we grew up with, and really look and think, do I really believe this? And then change the perspective so that we can make different changes so we stop creating this cycle of debt in our minds and on our in our finances.
Yeah. And what an essential thing that a lot of people aren't taught, which is money management. There's so many needs for that, especially with the youth that can get in trouble early on. So, how did you get to a point where you got disciplined enough and numbers and money was something that has been important for you and to make sure that you can teach that to others? Like, go back to the beginnings, some seeds that were planted in you that made you feel this way.
Yeah, well, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Both of my parents were, self-employed, ran their own businesses. When they split up, we went from riches to rag. My mom had to start the business all over again. She was a cosmetologist. And, she always used to say, money doesn't grow on trees and money goes where money is. And I was like, I want to be where money is. Let's talk about that. So growing up, we were taught to work, and I got my first job at 11 years old, babysitting full time in the summer, and all of my money went for school clothes. So I had to buy my own school clothes, and I never, we were taught the, save 10%, give 10%, and then the 80% you can use whatever you want to. But I had to buy my own school clothes, my own school supplies. And when it came to the saving, I was like, well, what am I saving for? You have to have a purpose, or else what's the purpose of saving, right? So I got really good at saving. I bought my first car in cash, which was really awesome. And I kind of went into this cycle. My mom got into this pattern of, she got remarried, and child support was going out one way, and there wasn't enough income coming in. So she was always complaining about there was never enough, and she'd have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul. And I'd be like, who's Peter and who's Paul? And why are you borrowing from them to meet your expenses? So I didn't want to be like that. And I would see my other family members, all of my, my brothers were entrepreneurs as well. And I would see them just pour their time into the business and not really have anything to show for it. Like they'd get that big payment and they would go out and be extravagant, and then they'd be worried about money, within days later. So when I actually I went into the insurance industry in 1987, and from there I became a paralegal. I was a bankruptcy paralegal, and my job was to create budgets for people who had just filed for bankruptcy to prevent them from going back into that cycle.
Yeah.
So at 22, I was a single mom, and I incurred $32,000 worth of debt. Someone in my family had stolen from me, and part of my debt was this loan that they had forged my name on. So it created this sense of, oh, I can't trust people. I can't trust entrepreneurs. I can't trust, this system. So I ended up working 2 jobs to try to get myself out of debt, and I just couldn't do it. And I went and did bankruptcy, which was really degrading for me because I knew the consequences of it all. And I vowed that I was going to be a self-made millionaire. I was never going to be in that position again, and I did wonderfully. I invested. I got a job at Social Security Administration. I invested 30% of my pay into retirement and savings, built up, paid everything in cash. And then I hit my 40s. And my husband likes to say I went through a midlife crisis, and 0% credit card offers were coming in my mailbox. And I'd be like, oh, well, I can leverage this debt and I could just use that and pay it off. And it became addicting, and it got out of control. So I ended up having $100,000 worth of debt over a 10-year period from 40 to 50. And I would pay it down, and it was like being like on a drug. And I knew I needed help. So I hired a money mindset coach to help me break this cycle of why I was using these credit cards when I had the money. And, through a 6-month program, I was able to dive deep into the childhood memories and say, oh, all these conditioning statements that I learned, and I found out why I was racking up this debt. It wasn't because I was irresponsible or I wasn't good with money. I had the money. I was trying to fill a void.
Hmm.
And I find that a lot of my clients that I work with, they have debt because they're trying to fill a void. They have the money, they're just mismanaging it, and they procrastinate when it comes to finances. So working in the insurance industry at Social Security Administration, every single day I helped thousands and thousands of people looking at their finances, processing their retirement applications, looking at, creating budgets. For some of the clients, we had to go through all of their expenses. And, and I got really good at, okay, this is what you do. Let's finagle this income over here so you can cover this. And if you follow this plan, this is going to work. In 1992, when one of my first retirement clients, after we processed his application and got him on benefits, he's like, can I give you some advice? Absolutely. My son gave this to me. If I was your age, I would be a multimillionaire. So I want you to read this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. I am an avid reader. So I was like, yeah, read that book, applied the principles. And that's where two parts of my money multiplier system comes from that book.
Yeah.
Easy read, highly recommend it. And it's really helped me become a self-made millionaire. I get to retire 2.5 years early from the Social Security Administration. And then I finally stepped into wealth activation in November of 22. So from August of 20 until then, I was in three different niches, trying to figure out, like, I knew I wasn't doing what I loved, and it all went back to finances. And my clients that I was helping in my other niches were like, well, can you help me set up a business plan for my income? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And it was so easy for me. But
Yeah.
because I held $100,000 worth of debt, I didn't feel worthy enough to pick that as my niche. But once I worked through all of that, using my own tools in my program, the aromatherapy, that with some other tools that I have, really helped me to change that thought process and finally step into I date money.
So who's been kind of a successful entrepreneur that you've admired, that you look up to, kind of a success story in business?
My grandfather, he was a cobbler. He made shoes, and he was right from Italy. And he always had this dream, and he was really talented and always had the best product. He always bought the best materials, and customers would wait for him. Like if he went out for lunch, they would be standing at his door waiting for him to come back. He was very personable and just had a beautiful way with communicating with his customers and providing exactly what they needed. And his prices were very fair, and he managed his money so beautifully. He just did they paid, my grandparents paid everything in cash, and they always had plenty, and they were very giving, and they traveled, and they just really enjoyed their lives.
The one thing about money is that we see all these stories of things that can spiral out of control when you get a lot, when you become a millionaire plus. What is it for you that keeps you not only grounded, but motivated to do your work with that mindset of being in a very, I would consider a rather elite club for a lot of people. People don't have that kind of equity. What is it for you that really motivates and keeps you in that place where you stay there?
The security. I was born into a rich family. When I was 3 years old, my parents split up and we were poor. We lived in the city, we were, moving. My mom got married a couple of times, and there was always this struggle. She always was very focused on, as long as we have a roof over our head and food on the table, we're fine. We don't need all the extras. So that, like, the 4 walls, the housing, the transportation, the food, the clothing was always very important to me, but seeing, she was a single mom with 4 kids, and she worked all the time, taking care of other people and making them beautiful, and she had fun, but at the same time, because she didn't manage her money properly, she was a giver. She gave away so much money. So there was no balance. And so for me, it's having that balance and knowing that you can safely save money and enjoy it. But I still have this struggle of, like, when I want to go after my money, like, my husband and I just bought a new car. And it was like, okay, do I really want to spend this money? It took me 3 weeks to withdraw the money to pay for the car. And like we talked about leveraging debt and, getting a loan, and how would that work? But just really having that security for me motivates me to say, okay, no, it's okay to spend this much, but this is what I'm going to need. And so, like, we project it every single day. We celebrate money and we give thanks for it. But we project, like, right now we're solid. If we don't do anything else, we're solid till age 90. But that's living within, like, we have our money portfolio set up, like, we have our set expenses. And then we enjoy our time, but there's things that we say no to as well. Because we know that if we just did whatever we wanted to do and went extravagantly, we wouldn't have it. It would be gone, especially with the market and the way things are fluctuating, and the uncertainty of what's going on, in the US as far as the dollar goes. There is that caution. So we're very careful with making decisions. The decisions are calculated. We do a lot of research and study a lot of things. So what motivates us is just having that security, knowing that money will always be there for us. And as long, money in the hands of good people does good things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could pick the brain of any entrepreneur out there and meet them and spend time and just talk to them, who would it be?
Dave Ramsey.
Okay. Yeah. I was actually going to ask about because that's that kind of fall. I have one of my best friends religiously listen to him and followed a lot of those principles. And I was going to ask about that. So that you answered two questions in one for sure.
Yeah. I almost became a Dave Ramsey financial coach, but I decided to do another route instead.
Yeah. Wonderful. So if looking back on your life with the things that you've overcome financially and otherwise, if you have a dream tonight, run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on what you've learned and gone through and the wisdom you've gained, what would you tell that young version?
We talk all the time. Little Lisa, little Lisa and I have lots of conversations. To trust your intuition and to gather the facts before you invest in anything, a relationship, health products, whatever it is.
Yeah. So what are you the proudest of at this point in your life that you've done, that you've accomplished?
So many things. One thing that I'm the most proud of is raising 3 beautiful, children, and who are all adults now, and being married for 30 years. My husband and I have been together for 34 years and married. Our 30-year anniversary is coming up in September.
Excellent. So everyone out there in all these pockets of what you do business-wise and personally has a perception of who you are. Family, friends, clients, contacts, colleagues, but you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, I'm always transforming and changing. So I know that I am a honest, hardworking, courageous person. who loves to give, loves to spend, loves to have fun, and I'm very brass. Sometimes I say things that, I have no filter. My kids tell me, "Mom, you need a filter." I'm like, "Ugh." So I'm always working on myself, but I'm very loyal. The one thing I have to say, I've been consistently loyal since as long as I can remember. And if someone says, "Hey, can you keep a secret?" Yes, absolutely. And I'm faithful. So
So for anyone out there that's motivated that wants to tap into your wisdom and background and what you have done that you're helping people do themselves, where do they go on the web? How do they find out anything related to you and your world?
idatemoney.com. There's an all about me section. There's a fun interactive game called the money dating game. So there's 7 different money personalities that the ladies can connect with and see who they want to partner with. It's a lot of fun. And my podcast is on there as well. There's a link to my show.
It's a very alluring term, especially for your audience to like whenever you're like date money, kind of makes you pause. So it's good. It's always good when you can stop people. It's the idea of advertising, get them thinking, get them talking. So this has been great. What a wonderful story of back and forth and finding that ocean, so to speak, that you've been looking for. So thank you very much. It's a great picture. Did you take that back there?
Um, the picture of the ocean?
Yeah.
No, I just bought that from Amazon.
That's cool. Very cool. Well, hey,
Thank
thank you very much. It's been really good to look at the ocean too behind you. So thank you for taking time out. I appreciate you imparting your wisdom and your life story, and look forward to getting it out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting me.
Absolutely. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Have a good day. Bye bye.